I don't know if you're anything like me, but when I first read today's passage and there's so much about prophecy in it, I felt really quite scared, and I thought, oh, no way can this be for me. I know so many people who are always getting pictures and words from God, they're hearing God and they're sharing it and encouraging people. But for me personally, sometimes I feel like, do I ever really hear from God? But over the last few months on this gap year, I've learned so much about prayer and listening and hearing from God. And the first thing to note is that God does want to speak to everyone. He speaks to you. And the other thing is that he speaks in so many different ways. So sometimes it's through pictures, sometimes it's through words, sometimes it's through an audible voice, and sometimes it's just through your surroundings. But be sure that when you listen, God does speak. Now in this passage, Paul isn't trying to discourage praying or speaking in tongues, but what he is trying to encourage is building up the church. Now, he's not talking about, your personal church that you go to on a Sunday, but the body of Christians as a whole all over the world. And what he's saying is that when someone speaks in tongues or prays in tongues and there's no one there to interpret it and people don't understand what they're saying, then it is no encouragement to the other people. However, when someone's there listening to God and sharing what they feel God is saying to them, it can be encouraging and strengthening and comforting to everyone in the church. And Paul urges us to excel in spiritual gifts. He urges us to excel in prophecy. But as with everything, prophecy takes practice. But in some ways it does feel like you're bungee jumping or skydiving. You have to take that first step into speaking out what you think God might be saying. And sometimes that does feel like a leap of faith. I always have, the thoughts, was that just me? Did I make up that picture? But what Paul says is that everyone who prophesies speaks to men for their strengthening, encouragement and comfort. So as long as what you're saying is strengthening, encouraging and comforting, then it is going to bless that other person that you're talking to. But most of the time it will be God. And so what you need to know is that when you take that step, off the platform when you're bungee jumping, or taking that step out of the plane when you're skydiving, once you've taken that step, you know that you've got the harness on. God is your harness. He's not going to let you hit the rocks.